Welcome to the Lifestyle Chase. This podcast features high performers who have found a way to live their best life while balancing their health, wellness, friends, and family. Proudly hosted by me, Chris Little. Without further ado, let's get started.
So welcome to episode 13 with two of my favorite people, Farha and Naheed Shariff. I've been looking forward to this one for a long time. So thank you both for joining me. I'm very honored. Most of all, I'm excited to spend some quality time with both of you. I'm going to alternate between the two of you for some of the questions, and other questions I'll ask you both together. First off, I want to know, Naheed, pick the busiest day of your week. Tell me about how it unfolds from start to finish.
That's a great question. I would say that's probably a Thursday. And Thursday starts off with a 4:30 a.m. wake-up call with Farha. And then we head to the studio for 5 a.m. for a 5:30, 6 o'clock spin class. And then we get home, wake up the kids, have breakfast, hit the gym at about 9. I know it doesn't sound like I work, does it? That's terrible. Maybe my partner shouldn't be hearing this podcast. And then I get into emails, I get into a couple of meetings. And Thursday's interesting because every Thursday I actually meet Farha for lunch too at around 12 o'clock. And then I finish my day by 1:45. I pick up Elisa. We end up going on a date together to a place for lunch or snacks. And then I pick up Sophia for 2:45, and then I pick up Maya for 3:30. And then we're home to get supper prepared. We go to spin class Thursday night at 6:30, and then we're reading and hanging out.
You pick the day that makes you look the best.
I'm just such a good father and husband. So
that's great.
All right, Farha, it's your turn.
How do I one up that? The busiest day of my week, I feel like a lot of my days are pretty busy, but I think maybe Saturday because I get up, I make sure Lisa's set up for the day, and I leave the house, and then I go and teach my class at Cyclebar, and then I come home for a quick shower and change, and Naheed's got my breakfast waiting for me, and then I grab it to go, and then off I go to Champs to teach a 10:30 class, and then straight from Champs I go pick up my kids from their activities, and then we're usually off to soccer or piano. Usually we split in two different directions, and then we finally make it home by about 3 p.m. So I think ironically Saturdays end up being the busiest days because I do double classes on Saturdays.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, every day is busy.
It's crazy packing all this stuff into one day.
Yeah.
So this one is going to be a testament to how well you two know each other. I'm going to get you to work as a team on this one. Naheed, can you identify some of the factors to Farha's childhood that have contributed to the person that she has become today?
I think part of Farha's childhood, or the most important pieces that have created the Farha we know today, are the amount of time she spent with her family. So family time is very important to her parents. Family time as a group, so with her cousins, with her aunts, with her uncles, with her grandparents, like everybody spent time together all the time. And so that's sort of trickled into exactly how we spend time together as a family. I think Farha growing up in St. Albert and dealing with a lot of it wasn't very ethnically diverse, and so that has helped mold Farha to the person she is today, in terms of what she does in her professional life and how she behaves in her personal life, and the type of mom she is and the things that are important to her.
So Farha, it's your turn. How did Naheed's upbringing help to shape who he is today?
Ironically, very, very many of the same qualities. Naheed's parents were very family oriented. Like me, he spent a lot of his weekends and evenings with cousins. Not a lot of school friend time on the weekends and evenings. So that shapes I think shapes your core values when you spend a lot of time with your parents and with your family. An interesting facet of his upbringing that I didn't necessarily have was the fact that he traveled a lot with his parents, and they traveled from a very young age. And because my parents were both teachers growing up, we didn't have a lot of money, and we had 3 kids versus 2 kids on educators' incomes. So we didn't travel a whole lot. And what I admire about Naheed's parents and his upbringing is traveling was a really important part of their life. And they would, they were business owners from a very young age when they first immigrated to Canada. And it didn't matter how much money they had, where they were in their life, they would stop everything for 2 weeks at a time, and they would take their boys traveling around the world. And that's something I hope now that we're at a place in our lives where we are no longer having children and we can afford to travel a little bit, that's something I'd like to carry over into our family traditions.
Totally. That's so cool. And the funny thing is, like, I grew up as a teacher's kid too. My parents weren't like the richest,
Yeah.
but like we'd also try to travel. So there's one summer we just went around Saskatchewan.
Yeah,
'Cause
in
that's
your
traveling.
car. Yeah.
Yeah. Gets the job
Yeah.
done. I wouldn't recommend more than one trip to Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
There's not much to it.
Yeah.
It was good.
My parents decided back in the early 90s when Guess had just hit, Guess clothing had just hit the fashion outlets and like the mainstream. My parents decided to drive us to Eureka, California. And it took us about 6 days by car.
Whoa.
And we had the road maps out, and we were in the cars with, the station wagon where you'd lay down in the back and roll around. And it took us 6 days, and we didn't know where we'd sleep most nights. And I'll never forget half of those adventures. But, traveling is definitely something that you create memories and collect memories as opposed to commodities. So.
And you always learn a lesson on a trip because it's outside of your comfort zone. Like, it's somewhere that's outside of your norm.
100%.
And that's
Yeah.
what I like.
Absolutely.
So you're definitely both family oriented, which I also value greatly. In terms of your 3 girls, what are 5 things that you each mandate daily to keep your relationship with them strong and to help them feel supported as they make their way through life as individuals?
I think we could probably interject together into
You want to do this one
Do
together?
it as a team.
Okay.
Because,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. So when Naheed and I first had kids, we were pretty young. I think we were 25 and 27. And one thing I told him that was really important, like a non-negotiable, was that we had to have at least 2 meals a day together with our kids. And I've kind of modified my professional life so that I could be a part-time academic, and he's, cultivated a pretty awesome position within his company structure so that he can be flexible. And so we get our kids up every morning, we have breakfast together, and we have dinner together almost every night. So that's one, is at least 2 meals a day together. Do you want to do the next one?
Yeah, sure. We both drop off and pick up our kids. So no one else, we try our best not to have anyone else do that. And it's very rare. But that one-on-one time with our kids is very important. So either we're together in the car with all 3, or we're separated with one takes one and one takes the other 2. And every morning that's a ritual for us, is to drop off the kids, and every day after school, which you heard me say about the Thursday, is a pickup day.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah, we even while I was in graduate school, or when I was a classroom teacher, we made it really important part of our upbringing for our kids is to make sure that one of us is dropping and picking for sure. And it's challenging because they're at 3 different schools this year.
Yeah.
So it's a tight window. So it doesn't matter who I'm with, or if I'm scheduling meetings, or picture photo shoots, or meetings with students, or meeting with community people. My day, on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, my day stops at 2:30. Makes it challenging, but most people understand that I got to go pick up my kids. So that's been really important. The third one, I think, we kind of travel as a gang. The 5 of us, we bring our kids to things that are not always kid friendly sometimes. But again, being young parents, Maya kind of traveled with us from a young age. When we had Maya, most of her friends weren't even married, let alone having kids. So she accompanied us to a lot of outings, and deciding to have 2 more kids after Maya just kind of made our little gang grow a little bit bigger. So we travel as a gang. We're loud and obnoxious most places wherever we go. But we try and incorporate our kids in a lot of things, especially whether it's charity or volunteerism or community stuff. So we keep them close and make sure we spend a lot of time with them.
We spend time together every night. So before everyone goes to bed, we sit together as a family, whether that means Farah's reading with Elisa or Elisa's reading to Farah, and the kids are sitting in our room, and we all maybe watch the news. We'll put on CNN or put on the National. It's after Elisa's gone to bed, and sit and talk about world events. We spend almost every night together as a family. So before we go to sleep, that's probably the last piece, is for all of us to be together.
What did we pick as the 5th one?
I don't know if we have a 5th one.
So meals, drop off and pick up, travel as a gang, spending evenings together.
We do activities together too.
Oh, the last one, I think, this one has been controversial as a young parent, I think, and having, I don't have a lot of parent friends with kids that are Maya's age. So Maya's 16, Sophia's 13 next month, and Elisa's 9.5. And we made a joint decision as a family to not have our kids participate in social media, which, some viewers might be like, oh my God. But, as an educator, I started to read a lot of research about social media and its effects on kids' self-esteem, brain development, anxiety, so on and so forth. And that was a good 10 years ago, when I think the iPhone started becoming, the thing, and Facebook started, taking over. And we've been in conversation with our older 2 quite a bit, and always giving them choice and explaining, things. And up until about, I would say, grade 8, Maya, was it grade 8 or grade 9? I made the decision to kind of hold back with her social media usage. And then I think it was like grade 8 or about grade 8, when I said, do you want to have Facebook? Do you want to have Instagram, Snapchat, whatever? And she thought about it. And then she came home one day and she's like, Mom, I'm actually good. Like, I'll let you know. And she's heading into grade 12 next year, and she's made it through high school with no social media. Like, if she wants to look up Taylor Swift or hairstyles or Sephora's sales or whatever, she'll use my Instagram, or look it up on Pinterest. But I would say we have a pretty transparent digital media use policy in our house. If anybody needs to use a computer or whatever, it's always in the kitchen. But we educate our kids. I send them articles all the time on things, and they'll send me articles, Mom, you should read this or whatever. But so far, knock on wood, they've made it, Sophia's in grade 8, Maya's in grade 11, and they haven't really needed to be on social media, which is kind of neat. Like, and again, it's all by their own choice. So that's been something that I think, people ask me all the time, how, what's been the hardest thing about raising kids, or how are your kids so well behaved, or how are they so good? And we talk a lot. We talk about anything and everything. And social media has been an exceptionally hard decision for me to kind of involve them with, because you just never know if you're doing the right thing. I don't have a lot of friends that have kids her age, and so she was the guinea pig, but I think she's turned out okay. So yeah.
Well, I saw an article recently, and I don't know if maybe you had shared it, but it was all the CEOs of the top tech companies.
Yes.
They're not having their kids use social media. So.
Yeah, Facebook. Well, he's another story, but all these tech companies, Google, Twitter. Yeah, I can't remember when I shared it. I think it was a couple of weeks ago. But it's interesting because that's the last thing that they would do is want their kids on it, because when we were growing up, you know, if you encountered a bully or you had an issue at school, it stayed at school, you went home. And sometimes you'd meet at the bike racks, or sometimes someone would prank phone call you or whatever. But these days, you know, they bring everything home, and it's constant engagement. And I think, again, the research shows what it does on self-esteem for girls, self-esteem for boys. It just, you can't deny the research, and it's out now. So
yeah.
So I think I did okay as a young mom. So
yeah. One of my first guests, Blake Fillion, he has a little baby, and they're thinking about social media and the role in his upbringing kind of thing. And they have a very similar stance. So I think it's more of a popular opinion for sure.
Yeah.
Like just trying to control what you can and keep the kids safe kind of thing,
Yeah.
and keep it wholesome.
It
There's
wasn't-
so much out there.
It wasn't a popular decision, to be honest. I'd have a lot of people come to me, well, you're an educator, you should know better, and that's so backward. And actually, it's actually very forward thinking to think about some of the effects we don't even know about, you know, that are starting to emerge right now. So, yeah, absolutely.
So I was talking to Chan a while ago, and he came up, for context, anybody listening to this, you can look up Chan at Vivid Ribbon on Instagram. He's a great photographer. Him and I were talking about how we like to have quality people in our lives and the qualities that we notice in them. And when he first met you, Farha, he was doing the photo shoot for a spin studio when you were instructing the class for the event. And while the two of you were chatting, you asked if he had eaten anything from the food that was provided, and told him to stop working and eat.
Yeah.
And like, he's brought up that story a few times. And I think it's neat. It's memorable for him. And I even texted him before, as I was writing this, I was like, I want to make sure I got this right. But he was saying it's memorable because he's done lots of photo shoots. He's been to lots of events, and nobody really thinks like, are they hungry? Like, they've been working this whole time. And he thought that it really spoke to a lot of what you see in people and what you're considering when you're seeing people. Knowing that this has been a lasting impression that you've left on Chan, what is usually one of the first things that you notice about a person when you first meet them?
Wow. One of the first qualities I notice about people, and to be honest with you, this has kind of come later on in life, is people's energy, and how they talk to people as in their everyday, whether it's the server, the person at Starbucks, or their mom. It's the energy that they present themselves with, and yeah, it's an energy thing. And if I would have, there's no way I would have said that even 10 years ago, because, you know, is what you see is what you get. But I think having aged a little bit, energy is definitely a really strong aspect of people's personalities, or just their presence and how they talk to people and how they treat other people when no one's looking. So that's a big one for me, is someone's energy.
So, Naheed, you've managed a lot of people in your career, met a lot of different personalities, known people for a really long time. What is something that you notice when you first meet them?
So it's really interesting, because when we first started talking about this, Farha and I we have so many similarities. So I would almost, I don't know, I'm gonna try to change the word, but it's it's the aura that they give off.
Okay.
Nicely done.
Thank you. I'm a spiritual gangster.
Okay.
So the aura that they give out really is what makes it easy to interact with the person or tell you everything that they're about. So you can watch them interact with other people, but as soon as I meet somebody, I think right away people give off happiness or emotion, or they're open, or they're authentic, and it could be the way they look and the way they behave, or their eyes, or their hand movements, or whatever it is. But yeah, I would say their aura is what
eye contact
really
and
allows
eyes
me to-
tell a story about a person.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're talking to somebody and they just give this glassy look, and it's like,
Well, you know, they're not paying attention. That's the authenticity behind that, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you say that, because again, going back to technology, when you engage in conversation with someone, whether it's you've met them for the first time or you meet them for the 20th time, whether it's a friend or an acquaintance, if they're looking at you and really deeply listening versus scrolling their phone or darting their eyes around the room, when you give someone your time and your presence, I think it makes someone feel listened to and heard. And it's interesting because our kids, and maybe this is the downside of not being constantly plugged in, are really, they come home and they talk about how it's hard to engage in conversations with their peers because their peers are just scrolling while they're talking, or they're texting each other in the same room. And at times it's put them at a disadvantage because they feel disconnected, not because they're not on social media, but it's because they want the connection. They want the FaceTime with their friends or with their, whoever it is that they're talking to. And I think, again, we engage in so much talking in our house that you just gravitate towards people who are like that. So that's an interesting one because I think we both work in different areas, me in education and him in the business sector. And you can really tell when someone is paying attention or when you've engaged someone and they're really listening to you. And I think even when I'm lecturing or I'm talking to students, I'll stop and I'll meet their gaze and I'll look at them, and it kind of freaks them out a little bit because, when you look at someone in their eyes and you talk to them and you really speak to them, I feel like society's kind of lost a little bit of that connection. Or when you're in an elevator and you just say good morning, and students are like, oh, like, you don't teach me. Like, it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
As opposed to just smiling and walking through the hallways and just kind of saying hi to everyone, so.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the space between words, I think, is important too, those pauses when you're engaging with someone.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think a lot of people do that either.
Yeah.
It kind of shows that you took time to think about what they said, you're processing it, and then you're thinking about your response kind of thing.
Yeah.
So on to the next one. So Naheed, at Jordan Jeski's event earlier this year, the project, I really enjoyed talking with you and Chan about the things that really matter in life. And we've talked about how your dad showed you and your brother the ropes of investing. We talked about the car that you and Faisal each had. It was attached to a goal that you had reached, but at the end of the day, it was just a car. You both saw something much more valuable than any car. We can all work hard and have nice material things, and they're often the product of a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, but they don't carry the weight of the amazing people that we have in our lives. You're extremely successful. You've been in your primary industry since childhood. You know business and money inside and out and come from a very high-performing family, but there is so much more to you than that. Life doesn't hold back. We wish it would, but it doesn't. And there's a lot about having you both as guests and everything that has happened this past year that got me pretty emotional in writing these questions. You're both important to me, and I know this year has been heavy. I want to honor some legacies with you. I want to promote some of the best qualities: selflessness, bravery, resiliency, love. Here we are, stronger, better, faster, feeling supported in good company. I want this podcast to help listeners understand what it means to be a better person and to take care of the people they love. I want this podcast to be about thriving in balance, living our truth. I want listeners to understand that at the point that they think they are at their very best physically and mentally, there is a better version of them. I'm here to promote that the best way to truly find the better version is by being authentic and genuine to others. We can make an impact. We already make an impact. But what would that impact look like if we each continued to improve on ourselves? Naheed, we all have something we want to do in our lives, to feel more whole and to live out our truth. And with everything that you've done so far, what does that look like for you? What is your next level?
I think it is to give as selflessly as my brother did. I think he touched a lot of people, and it wasn't attached to anything materialistic. It was people he met in an elevator or people he met at the cross doing chemo. And I think that connection, that part of yourself that allows people to get to know the real you. I mean, I've got a piece of my brother with me. I think if I can fulfill that part of his legacy, that would really help to elevate me to a different level. I think to tell the stories to his son about who his father was would also fulfill a lot of that and make me feel more whole. And to tell my children, you know, they've seen some of it, but they don't know all of the stories. And there's not, I mean, the only stories of my brother, there's so many stories of so many survivors. And I think to take those pieces and live by that would be able to elevate me to a different level. Yeah.
And I think it's so important to reflect on like these more meaningful parts of life, and really take like these people that made huge impact on us and like let that live on. For myself, like we all lose somebody, but I remember working at my warehouse job, and I think I was 3 years in, and it was just after one of my high school teachers had passed away. And what happened was he was on his way home from a trip with his wife and his 3 kids, and the youngest one was just a little baby, and they got T-boned on a highway. And he was a coach that when I was in high school, I didn't think I could play basketball, and I had trouble with science, but like he told me to try out for basketball. Like I wasn't ever tall in high school, and he was like, you could totally be a basketball player. And like he talked me into it, and he took extra time to like coach me through drills. And I went to a small rural high school with like 100 and some kids, and he organized like one of those rebound basketball machines. And he got somebody to come in from, I think it was the States or something. He got high profile coaches and did everything he could for me, for other students to get the best out of them. And with science, like if I just bombed something, he'd be like, okay, do it again. Like we'll just keep chipping away at it. And like he would talk to me about pretty much anything. And so losing him really hit the whole community hard. But I would be working in the warehouse thinking about like I'm making good enough money, I got my place, but like this teacher made an impact. He made people better. When I load up this length of stainless steel, am I making people better? No. And like for me, I needed to. And so that's something that stuck on with me. Like he wasn't related to me, but that's a legacy that sometimes when I think about the passion that I put into training and the extra bit that I do, that's me pushing his legacy forward. And I think like I hear stories of people, whether they're related to me or not, and I want to carry forward that legacy. So I have confidence that Faisal's story will live on. I'm getting a little choked up.
Wow.
It's tough.
That's impactful, Chris. I think what people don't see on social media, or you know, behind the they don't see what happens behind the story, right? And it's funny because there are days where I have moments where I stand back and I'm like, really? Like this spin class, you know, boxing, like what is it about? Like this is kind of dumb. Like what I'm doing is kind of dumb. But I think what people don't see is that, and when I say it's kind of dumb, I don't mean the sport or the activity. I mean how engaged I get. There are moments where I have, where I kind of stand back and I'm like, really, Farha? Like, why are you so like into it? You know?
Trust me,
but,
I can relate.
Yeah. Or you kind of sit back and you're like, whoa. Or you like see a meme or something, you just like laugh. You're like, wow, that's totally me. And you're making fun of yourself. But I think relating to your story is, I think what people don't see is the backstory as to why you're so passionate, as to why you use training as an outlet. And I remember the day where you decided to quit your warehouse job and just be like, see ya, and being so excited for you, because you're right, like your purpose is so much bigger than doing what you're doing. Not to say that what you were doing was menial, but more importantly, like, how are you impacting other people's lives? And I think in those moments of doubt where I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I so excited about this? This is dumb. I'm being dumb. I actually am quickly reminded that, like, this is my way of making a difference, or you know, finding moments of connection. And I think you're so right that it's the backstory. You know, I didn't even know that about you, and now it all makes sense. How passionate you get about things.
There's a lot of factors that play in, but that's definitely one of the stories.
Wow.
So, Farha, when Loma's ride was organized, I got really lucky when TJ Sadler from Yeg Fitness had to step out, which enabled me to ride his bike in Melba's class. That was an important day, and I would have hated myself if I hadn't been there. All 3 rides were high energy, inspiring, and full of heart. I'll never forget that evening. And while I didn't get to know Loma, I believe a part of me will always ride for her at Cyclebar. So Farha, you've met a lot of people in your life. You're a teacher who teaches teachers to teach. You train others to instruct and to coach, and then you lead your own classes alongside the leaders you've helped to develop. You lead a very impactful life, yet when we give so much to the world, it takes a lot to keep us feeling whole ourselves. So what do you seek out in order to feel supported, strong, and refreshed? When you need to reset, what do you do? And who is the first person to tell you it's time to take a break from everything for a few weeks?
You know, when I first started teaching spin, it was for selfish reasons. I didn't understand the impact it could have on other people. I only understood the impact it had on me. And what's interesting is that I turned around and wanted to experience that feeling for myself. And you know, I've been teaching spin, I would say, for about 5 years now. It hasn't been that long, actually, now that I think about it. But I didn't realize the weight that you carry when you hold energy or hold space for other people. And I think I've been an educator for over 20 years now, and an educator at the university for about 12. And the work that I've been doing recently, most specifically with anti-racist education and helping students to understand, you know, the difference between equity and equality, is really, really heavy. And I didn't actually realize, again, the weight and the space that it takes up in someone's life when you help people make those breakthroughs. And it wasn't until I would say the last 2 or 3 years where I found myself leading, like you said, this high energy, high impact kind of experience, and then stopping, and then essentially really hitting the wall. Fuchsia is in love with you right now. And you're going to have to put your clipboard down and hold her, because she's just all over him. Wow. Our dog is just being overly affectionate. So I feel like I go through periods of time where I'm like on the up, and then I hit this moment where I'm like, I hit the wall, and then I need to reset. And then I kind of unplug and I become a recluse for a couple of weeks, and then I come back. So I think your question was, what do you need? I retreat to my kids and to my husband, and we just kind of spend time together. I go and hang out with my parents and just kind of reconnect with who I am. And who are the people that notice the quickest? I would say Naheed for sure. But I also have a really amazing set of friends that I don't see every day. I may not talk to them every day, but they're the first ones to send me a message and be like, hey, your energy is off, or I notice things. Andrea Rice is one of them. My good friend Loma was another one. Katie Cotter is another one. Maya Jabber, Loma's sister, is another one, and a couple of others. My good friend Nyla. They're all really important people that will stop and say, "Okay, you need some time."
Yeah.
And it's interesting because they're the first ones to see it, and then I noticed afterwards. So that's when you know you have really good friends, when they can be honest with you and say, "Hey, you need to disconnect a little bit."
And we all need people like that, because we get so stuck in our own lane, and we're like, this is the norm, but on the outside looking in, our norm is not good.
No. It's interesting because even my Champs family or my Cyclebar family, I have really cultivated a close-knit community of people who really truly, the saying, we have your back kind of thing. I truly believe that literally tomorrow, if I picked up the phone and said I need something, any one of the Champs coaches, any one of the Cyclebar coaches would be like, "Yeah, you name it, I'll be there."
They probably have baseball bats. And
Yeah, ready to go. So I've been really lucky that I don't have a lot of friends. I can say that proudly, because I find I'm very greedy with my time. So if I consider you to be one of my friends, that you're fortunate, because my number one thing in my life is my family, and you got to be really special if I'm going to take time away from my family. So
Naheed, we've always been able to relate on our respective fitness transformations, and you've basically seen my whole damn journey. How did your life change as a whole when you made changes to your fitness and nutrition?
You want to tell the story?
Yeah,
Let's tell the story. It's a good story.
Well, I thought protein sources were chicken wings.
Well, they are.
It's true. It's the wrong type of protein source. No, what was really interesting was I enjoyed eating out lots. When Farha and I were in university, we went a lot. It was chicken fingers every day, and we chilled out. We didn't really do anything physical. I mean, I did that.
We were both very inactive, actually.
Grade 7 to grade 10, I was quite active, and then grade 10, it was done. I was not interested in that.
You liked fries and McChicken sauce.
This is true.
That actually sounds pretty good.
Just try it.
Westmount Mall, that's right. Yeah, it was great. Going to Russia. But I think that my health was suffering. I had asthma. And one of the gifts that Farha gave me was to work out with a trainer back in Toronto when we were there in 2003. And that sort of sparked, it was really difficult for the first 5 years. I was not interested in going. It was a chore. I did it for her more than I did it for myself. And then I got to a place where my turning point was Chris C, actually. And Chris C and I became very close when we were training together. And I started to feel like that was an escape from the pressures in my life. And maybe that was like work pressures, stress, anything that was going on that I couldn't handle. Working out started to take that away. And then every vacation that Farha and I would take, we would find a workout piece to that. And so when we started spinning years ago, at first I was not very happy about that either. But then it became an escape. And so in terms of what it's done for me now is it really grounds me. Even though I'm not thinking while I'm doing that and I'm enjoying that moment and that time, I'm able to take my day and shrink it into a shorter work period, but be very, very efficient and effective within that time period compared to before. So I feel like my mind is sharpened. I feel I can be a lot more focused. I feel stronger mentally and physically, and I feel like I can do so much more than I could before. So it's done wonders. On the nutrition side, we eat clean. We're not overly strict with our diet per se, But I think even putting in the right amount of fruits and vegetables and protein sources into your body helps to cleanse it and allows you to think more clearly. So I feel like a completely different person. I mean, I look at how I was and who I was and what I felt like, and
I have a picture right there.
Chris, we should show you the picture of me.
Would you like to see a picture?
Would you like to see the picture?
Yeah.
Ready?
Ready.
Okay. 3, 2, 1.
Oh.
That was me. I was about 210 pounds.
1999.
38 waist.
But like the two of you don't
44
age.
jacket.
Same. Just like different.
Yeah, just different.
A little bit more chub on the cheeks. Yeah. You know, to be honest with you, this picture is sitting here. That was a wedding picture I just showed Chris. It's been sitting here, and it isn't until we had Blake Lotes and Hannah Hamilton, little plug for Blake and Hannah, two best photographers in Edmonton, and also Emily Igiotti. They did some pictures for us in the last couple of months, and we just finally put them up. And I pulled this wedding photo out and hesitantly asked Naheed, can I put it up? And normally he'd be like, no, like there's no way we're putting that up. And he actually said yes.
Yeah.
So that's a huge turning point for him, I think, because of all of the struggles that he's gone through.
And it was at that time, Chris, that the feelings I had and the way I was, it took up a lot of space in my head.
Yeah.
And I think that's what allowed me to now be able to take that piece away, and it's left so much. It's made me more efficient, actually, because there's no white noise anymore. I'm not worried about anything. I don't think about those things. I know it centers me. So yeah, it's been really good for my transformation and for my business life and my personal life. It's
Totally.
been very, very good.
And I think what's really important for people listening to understand is there's no quick fix. There's no magical pill. There's no restrictive behaviors. Like, we're raising 3 women in our house to love and respect their bodies, and you know, nothing's off limits in our house, but the one thing we don't do is eat a lot of sugar, because there's a lot of cancer that's been in our family, and sugar and cancer growth have, research has shown that those two are linked. So 98% of the reason why we've never really engaged in a lot of sugar consumption is because of cancer. But I think what people need to understand is it just needs to be a lifestyle. And so when Elisa was little, she'd wake up from a nap, and if I've, had a babysitter or Maya was looking after her, she'd be like, "Where's mom?" "Oh, she's at the gym." Or, it became as normal as brushing their teeth. Even our kids are active. They all play soccer, and we try and teach them about balance, where, you go on holidays, and yes, you exercise, but yes, you also have down times where we have holidays and nobody exercises. Yeah. Because your body needs a rest. Or, we eat pretty healthy all week, and the kids don't take junk in their lunch, and they don't drink pop, and they don't drink, sugary drinks. But, once a week we'll go to Brown's, or we'll go to Earl's, or wherever, and we'll have a nice family meal. And there's, so, we don't lead a very restrictive life. We don't want them to have rules around things. You just want them to understand the choices that they're making. And I think for Naheed, that was a big turning point too, is the fact that he needed to just make a mental shift in his head that these are just good for my body things, as opposed to rules and those kinds of things. So.
And it's about making it sustainable. Like, you don't want to make it so that it's so difficult to make the move that at some point you just crash.
Absolutely.
Like, that's kind of the way I see it in the approach that I take with clients. Well, should I do this? I'm like, can you do this for the rest of your life?
Yeah.
Because if you can't, then maybe you shouldn't.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same. I guess it's the same pressure you would have, that the pressure I had in that picture, and then you create the pressure by saying, I have to be this, or I have to be that, and I have to fit in this box. So yeah, it's really important that it's just you should be in a relaxed state, and you should enjoy what you're doing.
Yeah. Exactly. So, Farha, my spin journey better than most people do. And we've chatted a lot over the last couple of years. What was your experience when you first tried spin? What was happening in your life at the time? What was your first class like? And how did the transition into who you are on the bike today go?
The first class that mattered to me, I think, is when we had gone to Santa Monica, California. For the first time, actually. It's become one of our favorite places to go when we need a reset and recharge. And I went to a class. I went to a Soul Cycle class, actually. And I was in the middle of grad school. Elisa was, our youngest, was probably about 1 or 2. You know, Sophia must have been, 5 or 6, and Maya must have been, 10 or 11 or 9. And having, 3 young kids and trying to balance graduate school, and I think Faisal had just gotten sick, and you had just picked up another business, and we had a lot for a young family to deal with. And I experienced this moment in class where I don't know what the instructor said, but it was just like release, and I started to cry, and I was like, oh my god, I'm in a spin class crying, like what the hell is going on? It was dark and it was loud and there was bass, and your body is moving and it's hard, and it was like physically draining and cathartic at the same time. And I was like, oh my god, what is happening to me? I was confused and happy and sad, and just he kind of looked over at me. We had this moment where he kind of looked at me, and I was embarrassed that I was crying, and he kind of put his hand on my hand while we were in the class. He's like, you okay? Like, are you having an asthma attack? And I'm like, no, I don't know what's happening to me. And we got out of class, and it was just this release, and I'd never, ever enjoyed and been moved by physical activity in my life like that moment. And I don't know if it was what the instructor said, or I think it was all of it at the same time, the mood and the lighting, and just the exhilaration of moving your body through physical discomfort while you're in the zone. And I understand now that to be flow state, and just feeling like, you can really get through anything mentally, emotionally, spiritually, religiously, whatever you want to call it. But we left that class, and I was a completely different person. And I had come home. I think we booked like 4 more classes in 3 days or something, and we had an indoor spin bike at home because I had just started taking spin classes. And I moved the bike up into the kitchen, and I'll never forget, I messaged the instructor. I'm like, can I have your playlist? And she's like, sure. And I'll never forget, I put the spin bike right there, like in front of the fridge, facing the family room, and turned off all the lights. It was like 5 o'clock in the morning, and I had my headphones on, and I tried to recreate it, and I couldn't do it. And I was like, this sucks.
Yeah.
And there was nowhere in the city that I could get that kind of emotion from a class. And I remember at the studio that I was at taking classes, and it just wasn't the same. And then I started asking the instructor, can you turn off the lights during class? And she's like, what? What are you talking about, turn off the lights? I'm like, can you turn off the lights during class? And she's like, you're weird, Farha. I'm like, no, really, just try it. Can you just turn off the lights during class? And she tried it, and everyone in class was like, whoa, that was awesome. And it wasn't like purely dark or anything, but it was a little bit of mood. And then that instructor, Cara Bell, she has her own training studio right now in Sherwood Park. She's like kick-ass. You guys should go check her out. If Life Gives You Lemons, I think is her Instagram handle. She came up to me after class, and she's like, Farha, you just got to learn how to teach spin. And I was like, Cara, what are you talking about? She's like, no, like, you need to go and do this. Like, you need to go and learn how to teach, and you need to create your own kind of like vibe. Like, you're after something, and we just don't have it. Like, there's nothing here. And it was because of Cara Bell who told me. She's like, and then of course, being the overachiever I am, I have to go, and I got certified in like 6 different types of spin, and it wasn't enough to be certified. I had to be the best at what I did, right? So I every time we'd go on holiday, we'd go to Flywheel, we'd go to Soul Cycle, we'd go to like any spin studio we could, and I just learned and I just watched, and I kind of took pieces of different instructors in different studios, and I just kind of made my own way, and that's kind of how I started.
So what was the first class that you instructed like?
Not anything that I just described. It was horrible. Back then, you used to plug your phone in to the cord, and I was teaching a class, and I didn't know anything about airplane mode or anything like that, and all of a sudden I was in the middle of the class, and they were on these horrible Kaiser bikes, and all of a sudden I can't even remember what I was doing. I was teaching, and it was like a full class, and it was great, and all of a sudden my phone starts ringing, and I hit ignore, and everyone started laughing, and I'm like, okay, that was funny, but oh my god, like mortified. Teaching, all of a sudden the phone starts ringing, and I'm like, ignore. And then I was teaching again, and it's Naheed calling. And I'm like, doesn't he know that I'm teaching class right now? And then the third time it rang, everyone just yelled, pick it up! So I hit answer, and it was on the speakers.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hello? And everyone's like still pedaling. There's no music. And he's like, we just won provincials. And everyone yelled, yay! And I'm like, okay, I'm teaching class, bye. Hang up. And we just kept going. I think that was my first class that
That's
I ever taught.
That's awesome, though.
Yeah, it was hilarious.
To get that kind of a reaction.
Oh, yeah. Like, I think with spin, what is amazing is that it doesn't matter where you are, or what studio you're at, or what instructor it is. You know, when people come to class, I think what they love about it is the community and the feeling that they get when they are in the class and when they get off the bike. And for anybody out there who's listening and they don't understand what I'm talking about, it really is something to be experienced. And for the people who have all tried spin class and they hate spin class,
try it again
because it is like, people laugh and they're like, oh, it's a cult, or it's this. It kind of is, because you're with like-minded people who love the same thing, and there's nothing more exhilarating than moving your body and you know, just experience physical discomfort and pleasure at the same time, because your mind is so engaged and your body's doing things you never thought it could. It's really quite something. So my first class was really quite horrible, actually. It was horrible.
It's important for people to hear that, because like at this point I've basically targeted the niche market of instructors, are probably the most people that listen to my podcast now. And they need to hear it like 1,000 times. It sucked.
And there are days now, and I've been teaching for 5 years now, where I get off and, you know, Naheed comes to like all my classes, and I'll get off the bike and be like, that was horrible. He's like, what are you talking about? So what we experience as instructors is usually not what other people feel, right? Or it's such an emotional experience for me. And, you know, having lost my brother-in-law and having lost Loma so close together, there are days where I'll teach a class and people will message me afterwards and on Instagram or Facebook or whatever, and be like, oh my God, thank you so much for class. It was the best class ever. And like, it was so mentally and emotionally demanding. Like, you know, it's dark, so people can't see, but there's a lot of tears, you know, or there's a lot of emotion that goes into that class. And as cathartic as it is for me, I think if you're listening and you're an instructor, the best advice I could give to people who are either teaching spin or want to teach spin or want to get into teaching spin is be uninhibited and be vulnerable and just, you know, just like live it, you know, enjoy what you're doing, and don't be afraid to let go of some things. And 98% of people in your classes or who will take your classes will receive that in a positive way.
I agree. Like, some of the best classes that I've gone to is when the instructor is truly and wholly feeling something, and you know it. And
Absolutely.
You might not even know the context, but you know it.
Yeah.
And I think probably when I was teaching, probably my best class was my last one.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't leaving because it was something that I was bad at or that I hated it. It was just something that I needed personally. And so it was like leaving a best friend kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I like lit the roof on fire. Like
Yeah.
the place was bumping.
Yeah.
Because I was like,
So emotional.
this isn't like a goodbye. This is a see you later. But like, you'll be there when I come back. Kind
Yeah.
of thing. But
Yeah.
it's so much better to be doing anything that you do as yourself.
Wholeheartedly.
Feeling the emotions you have to feel.
Yeah.
Because people read that, they understand it, and then
Yeah.
they can react to it.
Absolutely.
Like when you're sad, people can be sad with you. When you're happy, people can be happy with you. But if you don't actually portray those emotions,
Yeah.
even if you're somebody who likes promoting positivity, if all it is just ha ha ha, la la la, this is great, nobody's ever going to be able to know how to be on your level.
Yeah.
But moving on, Naheed, as a business leader, what is the toughest business decision you've ever had to make?
In 2008, 2009, we were with, we call the OC, the old company. And that's the old restaurant brand I was with. And I sat on a lot of boards for that restaurant company. And we really enjoyed, we were just heading out of the recession in 2008, 2009. And things were turning around for the city, for the brand, for the company. And I was spending a lot of time with their executive team and doing a lot of research, and I started to see trends in the business changing. Food trends, vision, strategy, everything was changing. Culinary. And I started to question what I was doing in that business and in that brand, and if it was doing things for me anymore. And I think coming to that conclusion was really difficult, because that was a business that my parents had first gotten into in the early 80s, and I'd grown up in that business, and frankly, it's not that it was easy, but it was second nature to me. And so making the decision to transition out of that company and into a new company, one that didn't exist in the Alberta market, was very, very difficult, because I was taking a major risk. And so jumping from that into the new company was probably the biggest, hardest decision I've ever had to make.
That would be a tough decision.
Yeah.
And I think you can transfer it on to so many other applications. People and their career moves. Like, I've talked to a lot of people on this podcast that have had to make a career move where it wasn't necessarily easy, because it's not like that first one was a bad place to be in. Like Dean Guido, he was on the podcast, and he used to be a teacher, and then he changed and became a trainer. And being a teacher wasn't a bad career. It paid well, and you have a purpose, and you're helping people. But I think his zone of excellence, or genius, I should say, was in training. And so he had to just make the tough decision. What's the best for him, and where can he excel to the highest extent? And it's not necessarily a guaranteed thing, but it's a thing that's proven to be very successful for him. Like, he's going to be growing substantially in the years to come with some of the projects he's taking on. So Farha, you are focused on growth of others, but that does not come without experiencing your own life lessons. What is the biggest lesson that you've learned in the times when you've consequently experienced your own greatest growth?
I think that it's probably common knowledge that I was a partner in a spin studio. And while I loved what I did, I loved it as much as I loved one of my own children. The decision to walk away from that partnership was really difficult, but I did so with my integrity in mind and intact. I had to walk away because a lot of the things that I perceived as being just went against my personal values, my belief system, my place as a female entrepreneur, as a feminist, just completely went against all of that. And to walk away from that, to walk away from something you love so deeply that you helped to create and that, you know, it wasn't easy to run a business and be a part-time academic and a full-time mom to 3 kids and be an active community member and all of those things. But I did my absolute very best. My biggest lesson that I learned was to lead my life with integrity and to never play small and to never dumb myself down, to use my voice and to speak loudly. I hate ego. I hate it. I think it is the absolute biggest failure as a human being when you play into ego. And most painful, most valuable life lesson. And as a mother of 3 women, it's given me the integrity, the courage, and the strength to tell all 3 of my girls, never sit down, always use your voice, and don't wait to be invited to the table. Set your own damn table and throw your own damn dinner party. So, yeah.
I like that one.
Yeah.
It's so empowering, but on the other hand, like some people, because I am at so many different things, oftentimes like your name will come up when I talk about spin. Because they're like, oh, well, I used to go to this one place and my favorite instructor was Farha. I'm like, oh, well. And they're like, but she doesn't teach anymore. And I'm like, yeah, she does. And so I think it's a great awareness piece to know that it's more of an empowerment, a self-empowerment that you've done, and it's not like you're not doing the thing, like you're still doing it. And so for anybody listening, they know where to find you. Cyclebar.
I think when I left my partnership and walked away, I thought I would never get on a spin bike again. It was too raw. It was too personal. And what was amazing was that I met Yvonne Camus, who is the CEO of World Health, and worked with her and Dana Rajat, who's the co-owner of True Ride. And, you know, they essentially wanted to rebrand and kind of launch True Ride again. And ironically, True Ride and Spin Unity were my first spin studios that I ever taught at. And what kind of came full circle to me was at the other spin studio, that was someone else's method that was developed, and what was great for me is that I learned it and I understood it. And having been to Soul Cycle Flywheel, I had been to a cycle bar at that point and other random kind of no name spin studios around North America. I kind of learned how to pick and choose different things, and I went back to my 6 certifications that I had, and I picked and chose, you know, what I wanted to do, and I created a method that was research-based, that was original, and that was, you know, a combination of so many different types of methods. And I think what was really empowering for me as a human being was to know that I actually had the potential to do something like that and develop a method and a manual, and having a background in curriculum and education, create a training program. And then right on the kind of the piggyback, you know, what piggybacked off that was working with Jelena Mrjenovic and helping to launch Champs, and taking the brilliance of her mind and her gifted athleticism and essentially harnessing it into a program with Mel Fazer. Again, I would have never ever had the opportunity to work with those 2 amazing individuals to help create the method behind Champs and some of the things that go on in the studio. And then later, again at the same time, right around True Ride and Champs, I met Loma. And so those are, I would say, by far the 3 most fulfilling things as a fitness professional that have been far more exhilarating than owning a business or running a business, or, you know, there's no way I could have done all of those things without having left. But I still keep in touch with a lot of people, and a lot of people that spin there, or people who are becoming instructors, you know, will text me or email me or call me, and ask for advice on things, and it feels good to keep in touch with the community. And I think what we've created at Champs and Cyclebar is pretty amazing. It's a very, very inclusive set of communities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I agree. Naheed, what advice do you have for fathers of daughters that are listening to this podcast? With the girls learning the importance of equality, family, confidence, integrity, and how to take care of themselves from both of you. What do you think is the best thing to equip young females with as a father in today's society?
I think to be a feminist. I think to be the type of man that you'd want to see them be with. To be a good husband, to be loving, to be caring, to be respectful, honest, transparent. I think the role of, or my role as a father, is to be there for my daughters, and to do that in a very open manner.
When we became parents, both of us didn't know what the hell we were doing. We were really, really young.
It's been a learning lesson
been a bit of a ride.
with each child. It's not that it's become easier, because life has changed and the world has changed, but our daughters have taught me a lot of lessons. Actually, it's very interesting. I think having a mom like they have, that they've learned how to be very strong and be strong females, and I think that's a crucial lesson for all fathers, is to allow them to be a strong female. And Farah mentioned about having a voice, because when we grew up, whether it was being female or it was being male, and it was being a different ethnicity from the norm at the time, I didn't have a voice growing up, and I think that's a really important thing. So to teach them to be strong and resilient, and I think are really important factors.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed. I like that. These next questions are for both of you, so get ready. If you raced the bike trail from Canmore to Banff, who would win?
I've done that
Farah's
one.
Farah's got a hamstring injury right now, so I think I'd win. I'd kick her in the calf, and then...
There you go.
Is that a loving thing? That's not a loving thing to say.
I did the bike trail from Canmore to Banff, and I would never do that again. Nope.
How come?
Oh, it was the worst experience of my life. I did not.
Well, Farah, you didn't train for it.
Didn't train for it. I thought, I'm a spin instructor. I can do this, and bought the best bike and went with like a friend who is like a pro racer who has like 8 bikes and fat bikes and rides his bike to work in the winter, and I think he overestimated my abilities. Yeah, I did. My first bike race was the Grand Fondo, and it was the year that it was the coldest year on record or something. And I had like 3 pairs of socks, which is apparently a big no-no. You get like the proper wool socks, but no, I knew nothing about.
We had shirts made up.
Outdoor
we had a
races.
full squad there.
It was my birthday.
We had eight people there.
Yeah.
We all had t-shirts made, Team Farah t-shirts.
Yeah, and at the first rest stop, I'm like, nope, Faisel, I need that go-kart thing to take me back. He's like, were you gonna come back to the finish line in a go-kart, and your kids are gonna be like, happy birthday, Mom, fail. Yeah, no.
She didn't quit. She did it.
I didn't quit. I would never do that again.
I don't think I've ever been on a long bike ride over 10 kilometers.
Like 150
so
kilometers. It's not a long bike ride. That's
I race cars.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd be able to.
So to answer your question, we'd both call an Uber and just race to be like, see ya, suckers.
Legit.
Never
Just
do
like,
that again.
Play your spin track in the Uber car.
Yeah, I actually, you're not allowed to have headphones and stuff, but I had a
Oh.
full playlist and headphones, and it didn't help.
Jeez.
Yeah, it was the worst.
So you both have to agree on one meal that you'll have for lunch every day for a month. What is the meal?
Okay, wait, what are the conditions? Is it a clean meal, or
Any
is
meal.
it like
Just a meal?
if we could enjoy?
Something where you don't die at the end of the month, so you can't
Okay.
live off peanut butter. I know.
Okay.
But
Yeah, no, we're both. That's our
We
thing.
wouldn't die.
Peanut butter and chocolate. But okay, I would say the curry jerk paella at greenhouse.
Anything from the greenhouse, actually.
Yeah,
that's our go-to.
Yeah, that is our go-to.
That's a
actually
plug for the greenhouse.
Almost every Thursday when we meet for lunch.
That's where we meet. Amilcar and Mikhail are the best, and Denis has like the Farah special. I'll just call ahead and be like, "Hey, Denis," and he's like, "I got it, Farah."
Literally every Thursday we're there for lunch.
Yeah, it's on campus, so it's good.
And it's super healthy, and it's the food's fantastic.
The greenhouse.
Yeah.
Everybody go check it out.
That would be
anything from the greenhouse.
That's what we'd have. Yeah, every day.
Super clean, really tasty. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. You're set then.
Yeah.
Here's the next one. Is it true that Naheed has the most shoes?
Yes. Shoes, jackets.
I'm gonna be quiet on
ties.
this.
Anything. Socks.
The truth is out. The truth is out.
He is very well dressed.
I'm just a hoarder. Maybe I'm just a hoarder. I don't know.
Just look at what we're wearing right now. He's like could go out, and I'm like in pajamas basically.
I concur. This is true.
Yes.
So who is the best at cooking?
Me.
Far is the best at cooking.
Nice.
Yeah.
Who changed more diapers?
Well, okay,
Depends
kids.
Depends.
If we take all 3 kids, I think that would be me.
Lies.
No, I think.
Okay, I changed the most diapers, but I will say, he gets up at night. Still, didn't matter how old the kids were. Even when they all were in their own beds, we had 2 sleepwalkers. We still have a sleepwalker. Literally, we are both such light sleepers. We can hear feet on carpet, and I just do that, and he's up. He will get up.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a fair trade-off.
Yeah, he'll get up.
It was my first diaper. Was my scariest, actually. Oh. Maya, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really scary for me. It got a lot easier as we had more kids.
I let Elisa roll off the change table though. That was my fault.
Ooh.
Yeah, she totally rolled off.
But it's okay because kids are made to be.
No, sorry, that was Sophia.
That was Sophia.
And landed head first between the diaper genie and the wall.
Wet. She was fun. She was saved. Yeah.
It was good.
Yeah.
Phew. So that's it for the quick questions. Now back to the important ones. On carrying on legacies, I want you each to alternate a total of 6 words that describe some very loved, very important people you've had in your life. 3 words each, 6 in total.
I can start.
Okay.
Selfless.
Fearless.
Forgiving.
Fierce.
Emotional.
Unapologetic.
So now in the order you gave me the words, how will you carry on that legacy and see those words as descriptions of actions you will take in your life? And we can just go in any order.
Damn, Chris.
Well, selfless. I think that, as I stated before, that's a lesson that I learned from my brother, and that he gave to everybody that he touched and everyone that was a part of his life. So I think that I think we do that to an extent. I think we could definitely do it more. But yeah. Fearless.
So I spent a lot of time with Loma after meeting her, and I'm quite ironically quite a conservative person. I play it safe a lot, and she used to give me shit often that, why are you so worried, and I think when she was diagnosed with breast cancer, she would joke about it a lot and would always say, well, you can't, if you were given a diagnosis tomorrow, how would you live your life? And she was would never hold back and would often tell me things that most people would never say out loud. So she taught me to, who gives a shit, really? Just kind of say what you need to say and do what you need to do and act the way you need to act, and fearless. So I think having lost her recently, I think has given me a new lease on life, and told a lot of people things that they may not have wanted to hear, and made some decisions that were probably uncharacteristic of my previous self, and spoken out about things that I wouldn't normally speak out about. So I'm still working on that.
So mine was forgiveness. My brother had a best friend up until his first diagnosis. And after his first diagnosis, the friendship changed. I'm not sure the reason. I'm not sure if it was because of the diagnosis. And that diagnosis led to a surgery. And I think that was the last time he saw his best friend, was after he had part of his leg removed. And it wasn't until February, he passed away in March, that friend reached out and came to visit Faisal in the hospital. And in that moment that the friend reached out and called him, my brother called me, and he was surprised and sad and disappointed that their friendship hadn't continued over the span of those years. But he said to me that the important part is that we'll be friends again. And he forgave all of that time that passed, and that was about 8 years. So I think if I could learn from that to forgive things that maybe are intentional or non-intentional, that would be something that I'd love to become.
I think
That's a good one.
you're working on it.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
Yeah, I think you've let go of a lot of things that you wouldn't have previously let go of.
Yeah, he's taught me a lot of lessons. Yeah.
Fierce. Yeah, again, all my words were related to Loma. I think when you met Loma, she left a lasting impression on you. When she'd smile with her eyes, and when she'd talk to you, she'd look right at you. She's the kind of person that you just want to be around, because I found her to be very fierce. And we'd often laugh because it's like we had known each other for our whole lives, and we had so many similarities to our personalities. She could make fun of me like no one else, and I wouldn't let anybody else make fun of me that way. And she was just fierce. Like, my kids would ask, they'd know if I came in the house talking on the phone, or if I'd be on the phone and, they'd come in. If I'm waiting in the school pickup line and they'd get in the car, they knew exactly who I was talking to as soon as they walked in, because of her demeanor. And so I really hope that not only that I can live my life in a fierce way, and kind of rolled into my last one, which is unapologetic, and we need to stop worrying about what other people think. Mm-hmm. And I think I'm doing an okay job raising my kids to be respectful but fiercely unapologetic, to just live in their own skin and be super comfortable with who they are. And that was Loma. Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
And those two flow together, so I think that leaves you with one last one.
Emotional. And I would say that, well, that's a hybrid between my grandmother and my grandmother and my brother. My grandmother she almost like, and by emotional I mean like, she led her life with her heart.
Yes.
And I remember she lived in this apartment, and there'd be a lot of questionable people, like in the elevators and around, and we'd pick her up and drop her all the time, and we'd go in the elevators and she'd say hello to everyone. And I remember one time I was at her place and there was a knock at the door, and it was this like burly looking guy, and it kind of freaked me out. I mean, I was ready to like fight this dude, or I don't know what was going on. It was stressful. And she basically moved me out of the way. She opened the door and she said, "Hello, so-and-so. Just give me a second." And she had made fresh rotis for him. And he lived like 2 doors down. And I'm like, so after he left, I said to my grandma, I'm like, "Why are you making food for people?" And she's like, "Poor guy, he just moved in. He lives on his own. I don't think he cooks. So I wanted to make him something to eat." But like, that was my grandmother. Like, again, it goes back to like giving selflessly and living with your, leading with your heart. She was just emotional and listened to people and did everything they needed. Like, she was just there as the support network. And my brother was the same. When he was at the cross, he was being pumped with chemotherapy drugs for 9 hours a day for 5 days straight. And I don't know who could sit there and take that type of, I mean, it's the medication, but it's your body's being abused. And he would sit, and everybody would request to sit next to him in the chemo room, because he would sit and he'd listen to everything that was going on in their lives. And here's this kid fighting for his life, but being emotionally available for everyone around him to listen to how difficult their life was. So I think if I could take from that, whatever's going on in your life or how difficult that is, sometimes it's good, maybe it's an escape, or it's the art of giving again, to be listening to someone and hearing what's going on in their lives.
I agree. Like, just before I came here, I have a buddy that him and I knew each other through CrossFit, and he's had lots of stressful times when he's just needed somebody, and he sent me a text and I was like, okay, I'll make time for you. I was like, I have an hour, and so we just spent an hour, we just talked and walked, and it wasn't that anything that I had to say was a solution, but I was somebody that could hear him, and I think that's valuable, and I think it's good that we make time for things like that. So if I can ever support either of you in any of those actions, always let me know. And I strongly believe that most of the listeners here will feel the same way. So it's important to always just, like, if you have something that you need to follow through with, is like anybody listening with their own lives, is always like seek out like that person that can help you with it, because sometimes we don't realize that we can like just ask somebody to listen to us just talk for a while. Like the number of times that I've just sent you a message and it's been a long vent, Farha, like tons, huge long paragraphs, and it's been very helpful. And I'm like, why didn't I do that a while ago? I've been holding on to this pent up stress forever.
I'll also beat someone up for you, so.
Well, thank you. And I know that. I'm like,
Good.
some people have like a lot of risk on their back, because I got somebody that's pretty good at boxing.
Oh, mom rage. When you have mom rage, there's not
Mom
any-
rage
Not that
and
level.
dad strength, I think, together.
And I'm half Pakistani, man, so you don't mess with people like us.
Totally.
Yeah.
So we're wrapping it up. I have a feeling this will be a long podcast. It's true, it's a long podcast.
Is this the longest one?
Yeah, I think we just broke the record, but it's to be expected.
Yeah.
We have 2 guests. This is the last question, and I ask it to each of you. What advice would you give to someone on authentically living their life to the fullest? Start with Naheed.
I'll start by saying, Elisa, go to bed.
I think people shouldn't be scared of who they are. I think a lot of people want to mold themselves around other people, or a book they read, or somebody they meet, or it's okay to be who you are, and people should accept you for that, and they should take you for that. So being authentic is about understanding your true self and knowing what drives you, what motivates you, what feeds you, what energizes you. And I think a lot of people don't take the time to, and I said the time between words, but those silences, those personal silences, to be on your own and understand who you are. I think that's the most important factor first to being authentic to the world, is that you need to know who you are internally. And I think what you do and how you behave and who you are to the people around you also speaks volumes. So.
Farha's turn.
That was really good.
Was it?
Best advice to how to live authentically? Is that
Yeah.
the question?
To the fullest extent,
fullest
living your
extent.
fullest life authentically.
So I have had the absolute honor and privilege of working with Lululemon so closely over the past 4 or 5 years. And we did this exercise a couple times actually, which was finding out what your core values were. And to be honest with you, I had never really given any thought. I mean, I'm an honest person. I'm a loyal person. You know, I'm an empathetic person, those kinds of things. But when we had to really dig down and they gave us a list of core values and we had to pick 20, then 10, then 5, and then 3, my core values were truth or honesty, integrity, and I think loyalty was the last one. And I would encourage people listening to really figure out what your core values are in life, and they don't have to be many. Maybe it's one. And for me, integrity is, out of those 3, would be you know, the most important word. And try and live and act, speak, embody those core values. So any decisions you make need to come back down to those core values. And to be honest with you, Chris, whether it was the decision to jump into a business, whether it was the decision to leave a business, whether it was the decision to get back on a spin bike, whether it was the decision to have an honest and difficult conversation with someone, whether it was the decision to take a chance, you know, make a risk, they always came back down to those core values. And if you're living within those core values, and for me, honesty, loyalty, and integrity, it's easy. It's just a way of kind of grounding and refocusing and recalibrating. It's not an easy thing to do or to think about all the time, but when you get into the habit of refocusing and recalibrating things, really focus in on those core values, it becomes second nature. So really truly authentically living would be paying attention to those core values.
I like it. That's good. So thank you both for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
And in honor of Faisel and Loma, as well as everyone else that has impacted your lives and mine in their fights against cancer, I will be adding the links to the Alberta Cancer Foundation and Kids with Cancer Society to the show notes.
That's amazing.
If anyone is listening to this episode, here's the reminder you've been waiting for. Hug your family and friends and support people with big hearts. This has been fun. Thank you so much for sharing this time with me, and looking forward to spin class in the morning.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
You bet.